In Fox 5 Health News, setting ground rules for labeling foods that are genetically modified or GMOs has been an uphill battle. Now the Senate is getting ready to vote on a compromise bill. So what does this all mean for us?
Joining us now is Fox 5 medical contributor Dr. Devi Parampo. So happy to have you here today. We had an epic girl conversation during the break about this. Makes you very nervous and suspicious.
Nothing left to eat?
Yes.
Sure. Well, there are a couple different things when it comes to GMOs or genetically modified foods, right? So there's a possibility, a potential for good in that maybe we can use GMOs to treat malnutrition, obesity, a lot of these things that are plaguing the whole world, right?
That's right.
But then, of course, you have a transparency issue where if GMOs are good for the environment or good for people's health, then why would they not want to be labeled, or why is there a protest?
Still waiting for some long-term studies to take effect because it's in everything, the major crops, corn, soy, sugar.
Sure. So it's in crops, and then of course the animals that eat those crops, right? So whether the animal is exposed to it or not is also in question. And then, like you mentioned earlier, that with the wind and everything else, sometimes the seeds can spread elsewhere. So in this case, at least with this bill, which is bipartisan, there would actually be labeling of the GMO products, which a lot of people have asked for. But there's sort of a twist to it that they have a choice. So they can either label the information text on a label, or they can put a code that you can scan, which will direct you to some type of website that gives you more information.
So you have to do work.
Exactly. Now, their argument for doing that is most likely that if you just see the term GMO or made without GMOs, your assumption might be that GMO is bad, even if you knew nothing else, right? That otherwise, why advertise it that way? So their goal is to say, well, you have to be directed to a website that would give you more information about GMOs, so you can make a more educated decision. But of course, the extra step makes it a little more difficult. Most people don't have the time or the patience to really do that.
Nobody's going to do that. Not especially if you're at the grocery store, you pick something off the counter, from an aisle. You're really going to pull out your phone
and scan it.
Assume everything non-organic is GMO.
Yeah.
Sure. Even organic, it's difficult to tell because the definition of organic is also in question, right? So it's really difficult to tell what exactly we're being exposed to with our foods. Now, to be fair, the FDA has said that there is no danger to using GMO products, but of course, in terms of the studies, it really depends how they're done and for how long, and what are we exposed to or not 100% sure.
Okay,
so true, so
caution.
true. All right, doctor, I can't stand this next study. I think it's ridiculous. It's bogus. It's dumb. Okay, but we'll talk about it anyway. You may be tempted to let your teens sleep late this summer, but some experts, and this is of course not all of them, are warning that this could make it even harder for them to get back on track for the school year when it starts, when some kids are not even out of school yet. And on the flip side, there's some doctors, many of them, that say teenagers need more sleep. So this is why I'm annoyed.
I actually think most doctors do think teenagers need more sleep. I mean, most people are sleep deprived, right? And then teenagers tend to be worse.
They're up late on their devices.
Exactly. And of course, there's the circadian rhythm or your biological clock. Now, up until the age of about 6 months, you don't have a biological clock really. So that's why babies are asleep and awake at all different times. But after that, you get into a rhythm which is usually regulated by sunlight. So for teens, the natural rhythm is for them to go to sleep around 11 p.m. and then wake up around 7:30, 8:30. But school usually starts before that time, right? So they have that difficulty. Now, in the summer, if you don't have school and if you don't have activities, maybe if you sleep consistently during the weekend or during the week, there's not as much of an issue. But the issue is if you sleep till noon or 1 p.m. on the weekend and then suddenly you have to wake up at 6 a.m. on a weekday, that might be jarring, the equivalent of jet lag, right?
Well, it is, but during the school year. But we're talking these kids have 8 weeks off. Why can't they just
do a
chill
period
for 6 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends, on the specific kid or the specific situation. So if they have camp and they have to wake up early, then it might be a different scenario. If not, I mean, if they sleep in, it's okay. But again, you're kind of going a little bit against the sunlight, right? Because now we have earlier exposure to sunlight. But I think the more important thing isn't so much the time, but just sort of limiting the screen exposure before sleep so that they have good quality sleep, restful sleep, and of course limiting caffeine and these other things that sort of interfere with people's ability to sleep that full. For teenagers, 8.5 to 9.5 hours.
Good advice for adults, too. The devices
So true.
are the sleep disruptors.
They really are.
Sure. Even a few hours beforehand.
No, it's true. I don't have teenagers yet.
Yeah, I don't
None of
either.
us does. But I'm sure that must be a major challenge.
Sure. I have to put my phone on Do Not Disturb all night because otherwise between the dings, even if you
Yeah.
Oh, I
don't,
agree.
you get tempted to look at it and then it's difficult to fall asleep again.
That
I
light
agree.
disrupts your circadian rhythm, too. So,
Well, you know who can definitely attest to this issue
Yes.
is the man with teenagers.